Welcome back to Loving Living Local. We're here today at the International African American Museum with Malika Pryor. Malika, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here at the International African American Museum. We're really excited.
This is my first time here.
Okay.
We're gonna do a tour.
The Gullah Geechee are a community that were established by enslaved African people who were living here in the Low Country. We have a map that's a pretty useful resource which indicates where the Gullah live and where they continue to sort of practice and hold on to their African traditions, which include language, which include foodways and food and culinary traditions that we see practiced throughout Charleston. I mean, so much of our culinary tradition right here in Charleston has its direct linkages to this community. Or whether we think about the sweetgrass basket making, which had a much more purpose and utilitarian focus historically, but now we see presented in these gorgeous and ornate artistic and artisanal pieces and works, I mean, quite frankly, works of art. So this brings us to one of two galleries that shares two exhibitions. And so again, creating a conversation. So to your right is African Roots, and then to your left is African Routes. And so what we're doing here in African Roots via this gorgeous technology and these screens, we are describing visually the diversity and the richness of the cultures that have their origins in these two parts of the African continent, where the overwhelming majority of captive Africans are being brought from and eventually making their way to the Western Hemisphere. So that includes the United States or the colonial Americas for much of that period, but isn't just about the colonial Americas or a very young United States. It's really about the Western Hemisphere.
What about something like this?
So I see you taking a look. So this is a mask that would have probably been worn during a ceremony. These are actual names and ages of individuals who would have been boarded into the bows of slave ships. We have their names in large part because these are ships that would have been commandeered. So this is a little bit of demystifying around the practice of children as captives.
This spot too, this is why you built it on Gadsden's Wharf.
This is why we're on Gadsden's Wharf, and when it was rediscovered that that's what this property was, the determination was made pretty universally that this was the only space that Iaam could be constructed on. Because this is the departure and arrival point, departure for perhaps other materials, but arrival for those African captives. And for tens of thousands of them, over 30,000 as a matter of fact, between 1807 and 1808, when Gadsden's Wharf was the sole purveyor in the business of the transatlantic slave trade on behalf of the city of Charleston, this becomes their literal beginning with respect to their American journey. So this brings us to the Center for Family History, which was both a gallery, of course, but more centrally, our Family Genealogy Center. As I mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation, articulates why we refer to ourselves as Iaam better than anything I could say. Because we are still here, and it's because of individuals that we see represented, but also the aggregation of their experiences and their expressions and their influence that make us who we are.